what did you say? She said, the victims are the mothers.
Birth mothers that find themselves in circumstances that they cannot keep their children.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing.
It's
We would go play in the tree house in the apple tree behind their house. And every minute I spent with her was healing. It was enough. Our love could survive on 15 minutes. He pats me on the shoulder and says, "You got a little too close."
Oh,
I'm not in trouble. I'm not grounded.
Sweet.
I know.
And he didn't care.
No.
And he just fixed it right away.
He just fixed it.
Gosh, that's beautiful.
She said, "Mom, what color was Grandma's hair?" I'm like, "It was brown." She said, "Mom, I saw her." She said, "Her hair was short and she didn't have buck teeth anymore. And she was beautiful, Mom." And I asked her if I could go with her, but she said, "Not now." And it was like she was so anxious to tell me that when she got out of the surgery.
Welcome to the Create Today podcast. I'm your host, Karen Stanley, certified rapid transformational therapist and hypnotherapist. And my passion is helping women heal from the past and learn how to create the life they love one day at a time. And this show is all about how you can do just that.
I'm so happy we're already crying. This is my Aunt Sherry. Aunt Sherry was adopted by my grandpa and grandma in 1960.
Yes.
And in 1960, my dad was already 23. That means Ronnie was already 20. So he was probably on his mission already.
No, Ronnie had just graduated from high school.
High school. Okay, so he must have been 18-ish.
They were going to be empty nesters. And then, surprise. But Ronnie went to BYU for a year and then went on a mission.
Okay, so he was about to leave for college.
BYU. Yes.
Yeah. And then grandma must have been around my age, because in 1960, she would have been 51.
Okay,
right?
I have not done that math. I'll take your word for it.
Okay, that is the right year though, right? Did I get the right year right?
Yes.
Yeah, so grandma would have been 51 and grandpa was 54. You said they barely made the age requirement, they were barely
to qualify.
They were almost too old for them to be allowed to adopt, right?
Right. Adoption was so much easier then. Totally.
Oh, really?
Yes, you sign just a couple of papers and I think $40.
Wow.
It was, and they gave me the adoption papers. I still have them. I'll have to resurrect those.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. And so it's a very emotional story. And we've never really heard from your side what it was like. And I really wanted to, and I'm so grateful that you made the trip. And just for our family and your children and your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, for all of us to hear what your experience was. And like we were talking before we started, this is not about blame. There's no shame. There is just a little girl who has an experience that is extremely unique and beautiful and heartbreaking. And, and what did you say? She said, the victims are the mothers.
Birth mothers that find themselves in circumstances that they cannot keep their children.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing.
It's truly heartbreaking. And I believe that. I mean, I truly believe that. And I just want to know, what are your earliest memories? What are your earliest memories? What was life like before you met the Knutsons?
Well, our little family lived in a very small trailer in Aztec. It was the oil boom in Farmington. And mom had come from Oklahoma. And actually I was born here. And I think my sister was too. So they had come out here for work in the oil.
In Mesa?
No, I'm sorry, in Farmington. In Farmington for the oil boom.
Okay.
And of course, housing was limited because the the county just boomed.
Oh,
So we lived in this small trailer in Aztec.
wow.
And as a child, I was happy. I thought everything was, well, I didn't know people ate 3 times a day or bathed every day. I didn't know those kind of things. So it didn't bother me. My dad and mom record that I was dirty and skinny, but I didn't know I was dirty and skinny. It didn't bother me. I did wish that we had some cereal like the neighbors had, sugar cereal. I like that. But I didn't feel neglected because I didn't know any different.
No, you don't.
But I think the incident that kind of brought everything to a head, of course, there were marriage problems, I guess, and my mom felt like she needed to leave for a while. And so she was in the neighbor's car, and we wanted to go, like, where are you going? She said, I've got to go to the post office. And the neighbor was taking her, and we're like, I want to go. And she said, no, only my little sister was able to go. So, but then it got dark and she didn't come home. And then a week went by, more days went by. I kind of lost track of time. And we accepted that the post office was a long way away. So.
Did your dad give you any explanation?
No. But I had my sister Rita, who was a year older than I. And her twin brother Earl. And so the 2 7-year-olds and a 6-year-old, we thought we were okay. I had Rita. I wasn't upset because she always took care of me and what I needed. But then when she did come back from the post office, I think the neighbors had made some calls to somebody called the welfare that they didn't think it was okay for 2 7-year-olds and a 6-year-old to stay home by themselves. So, and then it was announced that Rita was going to be adopted. Well, I didn't know what adopted meant. So, but everybody seemed that this was good news. So I went along with it. I was fine. But then the day that I found out what adopted meant was one of the worst days of my life, because somebody came and picked her up, and she had packed her things in a brown grocery bag, and they took her away, and I didn't think I would ever see her again. And I was brokenhearted. I didn't want to go to the park. I didn't want to get off of my bed. I just lay there and was devastated because I didn't know how I could live without her.
Right. And her twin brother's name, Earl?
Yes.
They did not take Earl. They just took Rita?
They took Rita, yes. But then a couple of days later, I was told that I was going to be adopted and I was going to live across the street from Rita. And probably having that time was actually a good thing, because I realized that I wanted to go. Okay.
Really?
I wanted to go. Because I wanted to be with her.
Time? Is he at work?
Well, he would work. Yes. He worked in the oil field. So he'd work during the day and he would come back at night.
And what do you remember about him?
My dad was always nice to me. I never had any issues with him. He would bring us bananas. He would let me sit on his lap and drive. And I don't have bad memories of my dad. The other kids might get a whipping, but I didn't.
No.
And so
you were sweet little Sherry.
No, I don't know about that.
And what memories do you have of your mom?
My mom,
what do you remember?
See, I was never mad at my mom about anything. I wasn't mad at her.
What do you remember? What did you do with her together?
Well, I do remember one time she was cooking and there was an oil fire and she burned her face. And that was really traumatic. And we were concerned for her. She would, when we'd walk down the street, she would let me hold her finger and we would walk.
Where would you go?
Just to the car or to the, but we had an older, from a previous marriage, my father had fathered twins, and one of them had died, but this one lived, and he had come to live it with us for a while. But I felt so bad because one time I got my finger slammed in the door of the car, and then he got a whipping for that with a belt. And I felt so bad because I thought if I hadn't cried, he wouldn't be in trouble. But
you were just a baby.
I was 6, but trailer court life was, it's all I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't have any complaints about it. And
when you say you didn't realize other families ate 3 times a day, what does that mean? You didn't have a lot of food?
No, I do remember one time sitting down as a family for dinner.
One time.
But we didn't have enough glasses, for everybody to have a glass. And so the kids shared a glass. I hated milk, still do.
Really?
And so, but I was so deceitful. I pretended like I was drinking the milk, and everybody was saying, don't drink it all, don't drink it all. And I was like, I'm not drinking any.
At all.
And set the glass back down. But
funny. So your parents wanted you to drink the milk,
right?
And didn't want to waste it.
Well, and the other
kids,
thought I was drinking it all. So we were sharing this cup.
Oh,
but then also
that worked out great.
I had, sometimes we had popcorn and Coke for supper, and I thought that was a good supper,
Yeah, everybody's dream.
Right.
Every kid's dream.
I could go to the park when I wanted. I could, it was, but my mother was never abusive to us. Probably the word was more negligent, just not really watching after
depressed?
us.
Do you think she had depression?
My mother had alcohol problems.
Yeah.
So
It's a
that's
demon,
always,
isn't it?
It is.
So
It's always
hard.
a wrecker.
Always a wrecker.
I broke my nose at the park, falling out of a swing. My sister broke her arm going down the slide.
Oh.
So, but
Yeah.
we thought we could take care of ourselves. we weren't mad at anybody.
No, of course not. So you had to play and you hurt yourselves. I mean, is there a child that in existence in this world that hasn't broken something?
But, so the day that I left, my mom did snap a picture of us. Wow. And
You still have that picture?
I still have that picture, and I was visibly upset. It was hard to leave because I had a little sister and then of course my brother, but yet I knew that Rita was waiting. And so we packed all of my stuff in a brown paper bag, and they bought me a new dress and some slippers. And I thought I looked pretty nice. And then my dad came and he walked me down to the ice cream stand that was real close to our trailer park. And he was kind of looking down the whole time and kicking rocks, and he didn't say much. And then he bought me an ice cream, and I thought, how come he doesn't want an ice cream? He didn't need an ice cream. He was pretty quiet. Then we walked back, and then he left, and I never saw him again.
I never saw him again.
But then the car came and took me to where Rita was. And I was so happy to see Rita.
And these are government workers? This is not my grandma. The people that picked you up?
No.
It's just like the welfare.
Or it was probably Fern,
Okay.
Rita's adopted mother.
Oh, okay.
And I went to their house because Mom had Wanda, or now I get confused here. Nyona, my adopted mom, had her daughter Wanda and her family there at the house. So I stayed with the Reedheads with Rita for a couple of days. And the first time I saw a waffle, I was so intrigued and Rita and I were very careful that we got syrup in every hole.
Put it every single square. You have to.
It was so delicious.
You've never seen a waffle before.
I'd never seen a waffle. So it was...
Where was Earl?
Because Earl was her only boy, and because Carol Joy, my little sister, 2 years younger than me, was her baby, she opted to keep those, and then she went to Oklahoma. And one of the problems on the story is that she had told her mom she needed to come home. And her mom said, you can come home, but you can't bring 4 kids. She was already helping some of her sisters with their children living at home. But that was what I was told.
What was your birth mom's name?
Her name is Virginia.
Virginia.
And she was a half Potawatomi, the Potawatomi tribe. Drinking is a cycle that would be nice to be broken, but those cycles sometimes go from generation to generation. And drinking was a problem and a tradition in the family that created problems. As a child, I didn't understand that
no,
stuff.
Of course not.
I thought everybody drank and smoked.
Right.
But then I went to the Knutsons. So after Wanda left, okay, they take me over to the Knutsons, and Frankie, Rita's, the Reedhead's daughter, took me over there to meet Warren and Nyona. And Wanda was still there. But I remember so well, Frankie took my hand and we walked in. Warren Knutson was home from work at 12 to 1. He gets this lunch break, and he always came and watched Paul Harvey or listened on his radio to Paul Harvey.
I didn't know that.
And so he was religious about that. And so he made this 180-degree turn. And because Frankie said, Mr. Knutson, this is Sherry, your new daughter. And he turns around and he was hard of hearing. He had the speaker box to his ear, and he just looked me up and down, didn't say one word, turned back around and went to listening to his newscast. So
my gosh.
I don't know if I passed inspection or what, whatever, but that was a lot.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I met.
That's when you met Grandma. Nyona.
Yes.
Is my grandma. Is the woman that adopted you, just to keep everybody straight.
And here's the amazing story about that is Nyona was out watering her flowers one June morning, and Fern, her neighbor, whom they were very good friends, came and said, the Whites are giving away their 2 daughters. We are going to take Rita. Would you want to take Sherry? And she said, well, I'll need to talk to Warren about it. And so the fact that they did that when they were going to be empty nesters, and but the problem is I had to live across the street from Rita. I couldn't go anywhere else. That was where I needed to be. And it shows me that through a kind Heavenly Father, He knew my needs. And even though I didn't know Him, we didn't go to church or pray or that kind of stuff. He was mindful of me, and He took care of me, and He's always taken care of me. So,
was Rita's family LDS?
Yes, they were.
So you got to see her at all the church. Did you see her every day?
I wanted to. One of the problems was that. See, I thought that being across the street from Rita, it would be just like having
that's what I would think.
Her, my sister, but they felt that she needed to make an emotional break from me. And so they would only let her, I could only go over for 15 minutes, or she could come over for 15 minutes. But we would go play in the treehouse in the apple tree behind their house. And every minute I spent with her was healing. It was enough. Our love could survive on 15 minutes. She's one of my very best friends. I call her often. We've gotten each other through so much. And so I love my sisters. That is a bond, the bond of having sisters.
You can't break it no matter what.
That bond is there.
And I'm sure they had really good intentions for that. I'm sure they had all the best intentions for them to think that they needed you shouldn't spend too much time together and all of that. It's obviously they had a reason for that, and they had the best intentions, but that's just wild. You lived across the street from them for how long?
They did move when I think Rita was in the 4th grade,
Oh.
but we did get to walk to school together. And at primary, we had learned this song, lead me, guide me, walk beside me. And so one of us would close our eyes and we would pretend, lead me, guide me. And we'd sing that song when we were walking home from school. But I did get to see her enough. But
So
Rita,
tell me the first time you met Nyona. What was that
you know
like?
what? She was this gray-haired lady. She walked a little differently. I noticed that, but I didn't ask any questions.
Yeah.
But I was told that she was born with a dislocated hip and that she had had this birth defect but handled it her whole life. And she could have had lots of excuses not to take on this child.
Oh, for sure.
But she didn't. And so I'm so grateful to her that she took that challenge.
What did she say? Yeah, she was born, for anybody who doesn't know, without a hip socket. It wasn't there. She's literally bone on bone, walking bone on bone.
Or it was out of socket.
Or it was kind of.
It was out of socket.
It wasn't there. I thought.
I think now they can put them back in.
Yes, but not in 1909 when she was born. She just walked with a limp and in pain. She was in pain 24/7.
I was interested in all of the kids that were there, and it was good.
What all of the kids were where?
Wanda's kids.
Oh, Wanda's kids were there.
Yes,
yeah,
Wanda's kids were
so
there.
Wanda is
that was-
Nyona's oldest daughter, and by this time she had how many kids?
Wanda probably had 6 of them.
6 of them by the time. Wow.
Maybe.
She had all of them.
Maybe.
Okay,
It was good.
that's nuts.
But then I'll have to tell you about the day that Virginia came. And I think she came by to sign some papers or something. And this was a hard day for me because my sister Carol and my brother Earl were sitting in the car. And I remember I hated sitting in the car. And just a minute was a long, long time. So I'd learned I didn't want to wait just a minute. But they were in the car. But then Virginia came in to the Reed Heads and she was sitting in a chair. And I walked in and I noticed that her face was swollen. Her eyes were very swollen. She'd been crying. Her hair was chopped off. Her hair was a mess. And she had this wound across her neck.
What?
And now I think, why didn't I go put my arms around her and hold her and say, are you all right? But I didn't think I was supposed to.
Yeah, right.
And I think they shooed me outside because I remember playing on the neighbor's lawn while we were waiting. And then she got in the car and left with my little sister and Earl. And
Did she say goodbye?
No, I never remember saying goodbye. And I always thought that she didn't want me or didn't like me, or nobody ever said why. And so I spent my life thinking that maybe she just didn't want me. But that night, after they had left, I just broke down and cried and cried and cried. And this tells you what kind of woman Nyona Knutson was. I would lay my head on her lap. And as I cried, she patted me and stroked my hair. And she cried too. They didn't scold me for being ungrateful but we walked out to the rose bushes. They had these a fence that had rose bushes all along it, and it was June, and they were blooming, and it smelled wonderful. And I remember that did help me to walk out there and into the moonlight and the stars. And then I went back in and sucked my thumb and went to sleep. And I didn't get in trouble for sucking my thumb either. They never criticized me. They always told me how wonderful I was. They never hit me. I did get one swat with a yardstick once because the the home teachers came. That's 2 men from the church that come, and they're supposed to give you a little message and check on your family. And I wasn't behaving. And so she took the yardstick after they left and gave me a swat on the behind.
I wonder, do you remember being afraid of them?
Never, no.
I mean, no, of the missionaries. I wonder if there was something about the men that made you feel uneasy or something.
No, I just was not
remember?
I didn't like to sit still very well.
You didn't appreciate having to sit there.
And then there was only one time I got a swat from Warren Knutson.
Oh, boy.
And they had bought me some shoes, and I thought I liked them, but then I went to the school, and some of the kids said something about those shoes. And so the next morning, I refused to wear those shoes. And I was laying on the bed, and I was crying and kicking and screaming that I was not going to go to school and wear those shoes. And they both kind of are looking like, what do we do? And so he reached down and he gave me a little swat. And then I really screamed and kicked. But I never had to wear those shoes.
You didn't wear them.
I did not have to wear those shoes. So I never saw them again.
Really?
So
well, that was sweet.
I think that they knew and sensed that I had enough trauma that they tried to make things as easy as possible for me. They always had, now they lived in a 2-bedroom home that Warren Knutson had built with the help of his sons. Mm-hmm. And it was a modest home, but it was kept, and it was warm, and it was everything. And they ate 3 times a day. Wow. Breakfast, lunch, and supper.
Wow.
and so
that was mind-blowing to you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
like, why do we eat so much?
Really?
But they said that I was skinny and undernourished, and so Mom was a real health person. Mm. And I loved her white bread, but most of the time she made whole wheat bread because that was more healthy. And we usually ate stew or beans or, kind of simply in the week. On Sundays, she would do a pot roast or a fried chicken, and I liked that. But one thing I hated was that they ate bread and milk for supper. And I hate milk, so I thought.
It's almost sacrilegious in the Knutson family to hate milk.
Right. I would have rather had popcorn and Coke, come on.
Well, they ran a dairy for years. That's why it's so funny.
Yeah, and
they always had cows. Always.
I know.
They milked their own cows, and so to adopt this little girl who doesn't like milk, they're probably like, what in the world? Well, they probably never met anybody who didn't like milk. And yes, I think the bread with the milk is really weird too. And my dad always ate it too.
Yeah, it gets soggy.
So funny.
Why ruin the bread?
You're ruining the bread with the milk. Oh my gosh. It's so funny. I don't even know where the bread and Mom, Dad will tell us where the bread and the milk comes from, but it's just what they always ate. They just always ate bread and milk for whatever reason. Oh man. So, but I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I wanted to, I didn't let you finish when you first met Nyona and you were describing how, so she already had all full gray hair by then. She's my age.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And it was short and curled.
Short and curled.
It was kind of steel gray.
Yeah.
Not white gray, but steel gray.
I remember those pictures.
All right.
And then, what do you remember her saying to you? Like that very first day, they dropped you off.
Well,
at their house.
They dropped.
You went to Rita's.
I was at Rita's for a couple of
days.
And then I went across the street and I had, Ronnie was there but he worked at a trampoline place. And so he wasn't there in the evening. One night we had to take him down some pants because he had torn his pants, but we were just instant friends. It was, I accepted that this was my mom and this was my father. And one night when we were first there, for some reason, they had some more papers to sign or something. And Rita and I and Warren were going up to Uncle Morley's. They wanted us to get away or something, protecting us from something.
Oh, okay.
But so we're going up to Uncle Morley's and they have this big steep hill. But it was so cute. Rita said, Mr. Knutson, this is your daughter, Sherry. Sherry, this is your new daddy, Mr. Knutson. Just so official, getting me all straightened out. What?
Must have been so crazy.
No, it's amazing that I just accepted it. I was okay with it because I had those few days of torment of what am I going to do without her? And so I was okay.
From that day, it was just a few days after you saw Virginia, your mom drive away. So it was just a few days after that. Yes. And then they said, this is your dad.
Mm-hmm. So,
wow.
Children are very resilient.
It's true. It's true.
They can do hard things.
Absolutely.
So, and the wisdom of a little 6-year-old, that to know that, okay, this is a better place. If Rita can do it, I can do it. This is a good place.
It's a good place.
So,
wow.
Now, the one story that I was going to tell you about, though, it wasn't until just my sister's birthday is on December 11th, and I called her, and I was telling her I have to come do this podcast. I'm a little nervous about it, but I said, I never asked why all of this happened. Did anybody ever tell you why? Because Virginia has died. My dad died tragically when I was like 13.
Oh, no.
But I said, did anybody ever tell you why? And she had told me that the reason that Virginia looked like she did that last time I saw her was because she didn't want to sign the papers. That he had beat her, and she still refused. And so he took a pocket knife and cut off her hair and sliced her across her chest with a knife.
Oh my gosh.
Women, I think we've come a long way since 1960 in the rights of women. He should have been in jail for that attack.
Yeah, he should have.
Not forced to give up her children.
No.
So she went back to Oklahoma, and I never saw her again until I can tell you the day that I saw her again. I was pregnant with Jace, my 4th child, and I had gotten a phone call from Rita had gone back to be with her mom. And that's another story too. But anyway, Rita was there, and I had gotten a call from the hospital that she had tried to commit suicide with pills. And so they had pumped her stomach and saved her, but they wouldn't release her from the hospital until a stable family member could come pick her up. And so they called me, and because she told them, well, I have a sister in New Mexico. And so here I am, 7 months pregnant with Jace, and we were driving Monte Carlo with bucket seats, white bucket seats. Yeah, we got a different car after that. But we loaded the kids up and went to Oklahoma, and I went in, and Rita was there, but Virginia wasn't there yet. And it was a modest brick house, a smaller house, a tribal housing, I think. But Virginia wasn't there. So I walked down and sat down, and there was a picture of me on the TV. And I was like, where did she get that picture? And why is there a picture of me on the TV? Because I didn't think she really cared about, right?
And
but then the thing that was so sad for her, when she walked in the door and she saw me, she ran. She buried her head in my lap, what lap I had, and just wept bitterly and said, my baby, my baby. And I could see the years of sorrow and regret that poured out of her soul. And I had deep compassion for her. I know Nyona had always, when she would have moments of insecurity, would say, I raised this good girl. Now she's probably just going to go back to the Indians.
Wow.
She had emotional episodes, but
Wow.
and you can see I understand. But
Yeah.
but I have since learned that I don't have to choose between a birth mother and my adopted mother. They are both my mothers, and I can love both of them. I don't have to choose. And I regret that I didn't do more to make Virginia's life better. When she died, she left me 1/4 of her inheritance, and I received $43. And that breaks my heart too.
She had nothing.
That she had nothing.
Mm.
And I have so much. And I regret that I didn't do more to make her life. But she died like at 59. Yeah, she was young. She had diabetes. Of course, lifestyle has something to do with your health.
I know.
A lot to do with your health.
I know, of course.
They, her mother and all of her sisters died around 60. So here I am, 70. I'm feeling like, whoa,
That's
okay.
amazing.
Niona's whole wheat bread, really.
Yes.
Get some good.
Maybe there's something to this 3 meals a day.
Right. And the garden vegetables.
Oh, heck yeah.
They grew.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you had no religion, no praying, no belief in God for the first 6 years. Did you never went to church? There was no church?
I did go to a Bible school, I think, one day.
Oh.
Because I learned one song.
Oh.
Jesus loves me. Yes, I know, for the Bible tells me so. I knew that one song.
You knew that song. So you had to have gone to something.
I knew that song. So I think it was Bible school.
Wow.
But no, the Knutsons.
Do you remember going to church the first time?
Yes. And they still have that building on Apache where they have this beautiful stained glass portrait of Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane. Wow. But yes, to me, the difference was night and day. And I could see so vividly the difference. We, as a Knutson, we said prayers morning and night. How sweet that my brother Benny let us say a prayer before this so that I wouldn't be a total crybaby.
Crybabies are okay. All crying is okay.
We went to church every Sunday. And it wasn't just, and the word of wisdom. We didn't drink and smoke and have coffee. I bet I have to tell you the coffee story. The first morning when I was at the Knutsons, they asked me what I wanted for breakfast. And I said, coffee and biscuits, because I thought that was the proper thing to have for breakfast. Well, being religious, they did not drink coffee in the word of wisdom. Yeah. And my dad told that story over and over again. I was always so embarrassed. Why did I say something so stupid?
Oh, you're just a sweet, innocent child.
About that. He laughed about that.
I bet he thought it was
years.
hilarious. I never heard him tell me that. I never heard him tell that story. It's so sweet and hilarious.
Right. But no, and then they also tried to, be Christ-like in the way they treated their fellow men by being benevolent and kind and of service. You know how Mom made quilts?
She did.
She made me a quilt right away. And then and she also made all of my clothes. So one of the first things we did was she made me a whole new wardrobe. Wow. And all those clothes I brought in the brown paper bag, I never saw them again.
Gone.
And she worked magic on her sewing machine, and we made a trip to Black Mountain. I put them in a little overnight case. I was so proud of that whole thing of clothes. And we went and saw Carolyn and her family at Black Mountain. That was our first of many trips to see their children. And I loved those trips. And that was another important thing, is that when we would make those trips and I saw the way that their families functioned, they went to church. There was no alcohol or drugs or tobacco. They taught their children about who was Jesus Christ and his meaning in their life. And I knew as we would go to each family that that's how I would want to have my family, to raise them, to know.
See the contrast that young, to see how lifestyle changes and a believing in God and a religion and a community and families who love each other and take care of each other.
Right. So it was never forced. I absorbed it.
You saw it.
I believed. I was a believer. Life's experiences had shown me the other side of the dime, and it just made so much sense. The word of wisdom made so much sense. Alcohol, I never wanted to have that in my life.
So you knew. You knew that it was alcoholism. You were aware of that at 6, that it was alcohol that was the problem, or it was her disease. When did you become aware of that? I mean, I don't think you would know that.
Others told me.
They did.
Others told me that was the problem.
Oh, just over the year. Who are
some
others?
Nights we would. Well, I want to make it clear though that Warren and Iona, another good thing that they did besides, always encouraging me, telling me how wonderful I was and how I blessed their life and never hitting me on, but disciplining me. Okay. I had to do things I didn't want to do.
I know Iona.
Right. But they lived exemplary lives. And it was very easy to see the difference. And that's what I wanted. So.
Yeah. Obviously to adopt you, but you probably watched them, she was always serving someone. She was always serving others. What else? What other memories do you have of her and watching her as an example of taking care of people and serving?
She was Relief Society president. I would see her get ready for her Relief Society meetings and bazaars. That was a big time for them. We also had the missionaries that lived they rented the trailer behind our little house. And I have to tell you, the missionaries, one of them, Elder Ball, could play the piano. And he would come over and play the piano, and they found out that I could not sing a note. Okay.
No.
And the Knutsons are musical. Okay. Right.
Yes.
So it was proposed to me that would I like to take piano lessons? And I was impressed how Elder Ball could play the piano. And so I said, yes, I would like to take piano lessons, but I didn't know that I would be a slave to the piano for 30 minutes a day. And then when I got older, it was an hour a day for 8 years. So I didn't really understand what I was getting into. But
sounds like someone else's mother, Willa.
But Mom told me.
My mom's in the studio right now. She's in the corner back there. She made me practice every day for 30 minutes every day. And she's not related to Iona, just married to her son.
Yes, she was strict about that. She was a Nazi about that. But she told me that someday I would thank her. And
did that day ever come?
Definitely. Yeah. I started playing for church for primary when I was 13, and I've had a music calling ever since. Yeah. You're
never going to get out of it.
Here it is. But no, but also piano teaches you discipline. It develops your brain. Okay.
100%.
Music
100,000%.
is so good.
It's so good.
And
because it's hard.
It's hard.
We just talked about you can do hard things.
Hand-to-mind coordination.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I learned how to shoot a gun I had never shot at guns. My dad would always go with my brothers, but I never shot guns when I was a kid. And so we got some guns and I wanted to learn how to shoot properly. So we got a teacher who's, he's SWAT team, whatever dude. And we went out to the gun range and he was showing me the position and everything. He set everything up and I just went boom, 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 boom. And he was like, am I being punked right now? I mean, he literally asked me, he said, there's no way you've never shot a gun before. And I said, no. He said, are you an athlete? I said, no, I'm a musician. It's the same thing. Think about it. Every single day I had to play the piano. I played the cello. That's the hardest. It's all hard. Sports are hard too. Getting a basket into a thing, getting a ball into a hole. But people don't really realize how technically difficult it is unless you've learned to play an instrument And, unless you learn, it's the hardest thing. It's not the hardest. It's just a very, very, it's very challenging and really good for the brain and difficult. And everybody wants to give up.
But I didn't have to do the dishes.
Hey.
So I had to practice the piano, but I didn't have to do the dishes.
That's amazing.
So she said I'd have plenty of dishes. And believe me, I have 7 kids. I've got lots of turns to do the dishes.
Oh,
but then another fun thing is because Warren played the accordion, he'd break that out, when company came, but sometimes it was just Mom and Dad and I. And Mom would teach me to dance. And because of her hip, she didn't get to dance as much as she wanted to in this life. So when I think of her in the hereafter, I like to think of her dancing.
I do too. I do too.
He would play his tunes, and she taught me put your little foot. She taught me how to waltz. We talked how to polka, and just
Grandma
music.
would teach you? It wasn't Warren teaching you. It was Grandma.
Because Warren was playing, so she had to be the teacher.
Oh my gosh. She taught you all those dances just in the living room.
Yep, just in the living room. When there wasn't a quilt. So many times there was a quilt in the living room.
Oh, because she was making one.
Yes.
And it would take up the whole room.
Take up the whole room, except for a little space for Grandpa's chair to watch TV. So,
I didn't realize that because I wasn't born yet. So I never even visited the Farmington house. They had moved to Mesa by the time I was born.
we didn't waste things. Okay. Joel calls me a hoarder now because I can't throw things away. I'm like, Mom, please don't look. I'm throwing this away.
Wow.
So I've got to throw more stuff away. She's going to have to take a long nap.
You wanted to throw things away when you were younger? Like when you were being...
Oh, no, I was taught not to.
No, you never throw anything away. Never, ever,
wasteful.
Ever.
She talked about not being a wife that threw more out the back door than her husband could bring in the front.
It's really smart.
Well, you know what? It did help Joel a lot. He may not want to admit that, but because I was a saver, they always had ample money. And so he wasn't a penny pincher at all. He'll go buy a $200,000 piece of equipment, think nothing of it.
My mind was blown last night hearing about their farm and how they need a few pieces of equipment that cost $300,000 each. What? Okay. So Joel came from, they had ample money. Your husband, Joel, anyway, doesn't know who Joel is. Mm-hmm. And so he likes to spend and you like to save. Is that what you mean? You save it for him so he doesn't spend it all. Is that what you mean in the early days? That's funny. So don't take out, say it again. What did Grandma used to say?
Oh, for not to be a spendthrift wife who could throw more out the back door than her husband could bring in the front door. Right. So
that's amazing. I've never heard that.
They had so much philosophy, smart. The Knutson philosophy.
What else?
Well, and part of it was what you put into the lives of others will come back into your own.
So true.
A penny saved is a penny earned.
Yeah. It's a good one.
She taught me that. Just ask Joel. The golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. And Warren Knutson was so honest, both of them, but a truly honest man. He was my hero.
Really?
For sure. He just treated me so well. We didn't live in a castle, but I was a princess. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
When you say he was an honest man, what were you seeing or experiencing that showed you that? How did you know that he was honest?
He would say, one of their sayings was, an honest day's pay for an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. You know, not to expect something for free.
Yeah. You have to work.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Knutsons were workers.
Yes, he was. And he could fix everything. Yes. And he didn't throw away tires, wheels of any kind. Mm-mm. He had a little shed that he kept his wheels in.
What did you do with them?
Save them for when something broke. He could fix it. But I do have to tell you a story about Warren Knutson that made me know I was worth much more than things to him. Mom had gone to Provo because Carolyn was having a baby, and I believe it was Eric. And so I stayed home, and I was like in the sixth graders. No, this was when I was in high school, and I was driving. I was a sophomore. And so I would fix him meals when he got home from work. Well, this one day coming out of the parking lot at Farmington High School, okay, this guy, he pulled up like he was going to turn and go out of the parking lot, but then he didn't. And then so I ran into the back of him.
Oh, no.
And so my poor Volkswagen, I drove this little red Volkswagen, had this huge dent in the front of it. And I thought, I am in so much trouble. I've never had a spanking, but I'm for sure in trouble this time. So I parked the car and watched out the kitchen window. I did the dishes and did a little extra, trying to earn some brownie points. And he parked his yellow truck, and he walked by my little red Volkswagen, and he stopped, and he looked at that dented in front, and he just didn't come in the house. He went out to the tool shed, got him a rubber hammer, opened it up, and started banging that thing up. And he had that dent all gone pretty much, And he walks in the house, and you know what he says to me? He pats me on the shoulder and says, "You got a little too close."
Oh,
I'm not in trouble. I'm not grounded.
Sweet.
I know.
And he didn't care.
No,
And he just fixed it right away.
He just fixed it.
Gosh,
So,
that's beautiful. That's amazing.
he would go to high school dances and check on me, him and Uncle Morley. And my friends would say, "Oh, your dad's here." Whatever. Okay.
You didn't really want dad to come to your dance, did you?
But I knew that.
No teenager wants their dads to come to the dances. And so they all knew that was your dad.
Yeah.
And that's funny that Uncle Morley would come. Did Uncle Morley have kids at the same age?
I grew up with Irene, who was a year older. Irene was adopted. She was adopted as a baby. She was Navajo.
I didn't know that.
Huh.
Cool.
But all adoption stories don't turn out as well.
I know.
Irene, when she graduated from high school, she gone. She never looked back. She didn't want anything to do.
Never Morley again?
I know.
Oh, that's
And
devastating.
then for my sister, things were so hard for her.
Really? She struggled with her adopted family?
Yes. Well, and like I'd mentioned before, disciplining with excessive force only teaches a child that they can't trust you, that they fear you, and they don't know that you love them. And she had all of these struggles anyway. And she had this, so she started running away when she was 14 or 15. And she ended up in a girls' home in Albuquerque. But at the girls' home, those ladies knew that she had this twin and that she was never going to be psychologically okay until she connected with her brother. And they actually bought her a bus ticket, and she went to Oklahoma. She gets on the phone when she gets there, and she says, she calls Virginia, our mother, and she says, "This is Rita. I am looking for my brother, Earl. Can you help me?" And Virginia thought it was a prank call. And she was like, "How could you do that? This is no," and then she said, no, this is Rita. I'm here. I'm at the bus station, and I'm trying to find my brother and my twin brother. And so she realized, no, it's not a prank. So she and Carol Joy, my little sister, went down to the bus station, picked her up, and then she stayed in Oklahoma for a while. But
how long?
A few, and I don't know exactly, months probably. She ended up getting released from the girls' home, and then she married Harold Huber, he so loved her and they had 2 children, Carla and Robert. Rita, in our family genetics, and it has cropped out in mine too, bipolar. They said that Virginia was bipolar. Rita admits that she has those tendencies. It's where you can't find a middle line, you know. You're either way up here or way down here.
Yes.
Depressed, going to take pills and kill yourself, you know.
Yes.
And so she had a hard time finding that middle line, and she always thought there was something better. And she ended up leaving Harold, and which she later regretted, and marrying another man that she had a few more children with. But
And where does she live now?
now she's in Virginia. She lives in the mountains in a little cabin that she's an immaculate housekeeper. She's just, because Fern, her adopted mother was. But,
Was Fern friends with Nyona? I know they lived across the street, but they were friends?
Very good friends. Yes.
And so it was kind of Fern that told Nyona that there was another daughter that needed a home. So that's how it really happened. So Fern knew about it first and then adopted Rita first.
And then I have to tell you the Marvin story on this.
Oh, yes. I want to hear it.
Okay.
Uncle Marvin is my dad's brother.
Right. Okay.
And your
Marvin
brother.
Knutson worked for Frank Reedhead in the oil field
Okay.
with my biological father, Glenn.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, his name's Glenn.
Yeah. So when Glenn found out that Marvin was the son of Warren and Nyona Knutson, who the Reedheads had suggested adopt me, he was like, yeah, this is a good guy. Good enough for me.
He knew he was a good man so that his parents would be, wow. Wow.
Yeah. So thank you, Marvin.
Thank
for
you,
being
Marvin.
A good reflection on your parents.
Being a good kid.
Right.
I think Marvin had a couple rough years. I think they moved because Marvin was getting in trouble a little bit too much at one point. But he was just a teenager. He was just a kid. Oh, man. Yeah, we wanted to go see him, but he's not feeling good. So we're not going to be able to see him this time. Maybe next time.
I hope so.
Wow. So high school was all at Farmington High, right? You did all 4 years and graduated from Farmington High?
I did. No, I graduated actually in Kirtland.
Kirtland. Oh, okay. That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. But I went to Farmington High School for 3 years. I was on the student council. I was a Kelly Green. I really liked my high school years. I had a lot of friends.
So fun.
Yeah, it was a good experience. It was.
And you never
was
tried
good.
singing again?
Oh yeah. I was in Sweet 16s. That was 16 girls that were 16 years old. And we'd go around with Mr. Toronto, and my brother Benny knows all about Mr. Toronto. He was with him and Ronnie in their musical journey. But we would go around Farmington and sing at civic events, and that was great. That
What
was
kind
a
of
lot
songs?
of fun.
Like, what do you remember?
Raindrops keep falling on my head.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Cherish is the word I used to describe all of those. Yes, beautiful songs. That was really a lot of fun.
Fun.
So-
all girls.
Yes, 16 girls. But you know what? I did meet Joel Foutz, and he has a funny story to tell. I went with Burl and Susan to their Kirtland church one week, and Joel was sitting in the back. And here, I think I was 14 years old. He told you this story, didn't he?
It's so good. You got to tell it.
He's like, okay, he sees Susan and Burl and Marlene come in. He knows who they are. But then I was also with him. So he asks his friend, who is that girl with Susan and Burl? And he's like, I don't know. He says, I think I'm going to marry her. And sure enough,
Her husband said that when the first time he saw her. I mean, he told us that at dinner last night. I'm just going, what? That's incredible. What did you think about him when you first met him?
Oh, I didn't meet him then. I didn't.
You never even talked to him that night.
It was a couple more years after that I met
Then
Joel.
you actually met? No
Right.
way.
I was, okay, he tells you I saw him at conference.
Yeah.
I was 15.
And that's when you brought the water
and that's
gun?
when we sat in the back and raised a little havoc.
So I want to hear the squirt gun story. Like, what? How did that even happen? You are the only one, or did you have co-conspirators?
friends. Yeah, we
and
had
so you
friends.
all decided you were going to bring squirt guns to
We're
conference?
the reason that the church made a policy that children sit with their families. And then I have to tell you,
You're the reason.
Oh, my cousin Irene, the one that adopted Morley and Knutson. This is so crazy. It was state conference, right? She had gone down to the 7-Eleven to get some candy or something. Well, then they announced
on a Sunday, which is not allowed.
Oh, but then they announced from the pulpit that after the intermediate hymn, they want her to come up and bear her testimony at state conference. And she was at 7-Eleven. And so we had to run down there and say, Irene, you have to talk. You have to bear your testimony. And so she runs back and she gets up to the pulpit. I'd like to bear my testimony, like totally out of breath. But she made it back.
Did they know that she had gone to the store?
No.
Do you think they did that on purpose because they knew she was missing?
No,
they just,
no.
Oh my gosh.
Kids sat in the back with their friends.
Oh, I didn't even know that until you told me that last night. So back in the 60s, the adults would sit in church in the pews, and then the kids would all sit in the back.
The ones that they could get away with it, that their parents would let them.
That's hysterical. And then you'd all decided to bring squirt guns to church.
Well, I brought one. And when you see a cute boy, what do?
You squirt him.
Right.
Duh.
Get his attention.
Who doesn't? So you just squirted Joel in the face. Is that the first person you squirted?
No. I don't. He remembers that. I don't hardly remember that.
Oh, it's so funny.
Anyway.
But he remembers that you squirted him.
Yes.
That was it.
So, right. But then the official time that I met, that I started dating Joel, I was at of course, the church at the Stake Center, and I was playing the piano for a cultural arts thing. And after I finished playing, I went to the back, and my best friend was there, and she was standing by him. And then he asked me if he could give me a ride home. So I told the other guy that it was going to give me a ride home, that I didn't need a ride home. I was going to ride home with him. No.
Oh, that's so sweet. It's so cute. Yeah. And you were 16?
I was almost 16. Yeah.
Almost 16. And then grandma made you wait to go on a date until you were 16?
I wasn't going to be 16 till March 22nd, but she let me go with a date with Joel when I was on February 5th, his birthday.
That's right. Right before you turned 16.
So, and Joel tells a story of the first time he called me, and Warren Knutson answers the phone, and he says, is Sherry there? Who is this? He's like, ooh. And then he told him who he was. And he said, okay, we'd gone to a standards night in Mancus for some reason. Anyway, it was a little travel. It was in the Young Steak. It was when it was bigger.
Okay.
And so he said, and she'll be home in a little bit, but he almost scared him off, but then he softened.
You did.
Yeah.
Because he must have known him. I mean, he probably knew most of the kids, or not really.
No,
Grandpa didn't really know Joel. Did he know the Foutzes? Did he know his
yes.
I would assume they knew each other. It's not very small. It's a very small town.
Right. But the first time he came to pick me out for a date, of course, he knocks on the door. He brings him in. And then Mom goes to tell me that they're here. Joel says that he gets like this close to him, and he says, you bring her back like you took her. And so
cute.
Made a believer of him.
He was so protective, and he's so sweet. I love that. What did Iona say?
I know one time when we were going to prom, this was a different date. She comes back to my bedroom, and she's all excited, and she says, Sherry, he looks so handsome. He looks like Joseph Smith.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I bet he kind of does, actually. I can see that in his face.
Kind of that prominent nose.
He does. I'm sure he did, did back then a lot more, but I can see that. That's funny that she would say that.
Yes.
So she was so excited for Joel, and she was so excited you were going to prom with him.
Yes. And I never dated anybody but Joel Foutz. He was
one and only.
Another rescuer in my life. He was. I probably would have gotten in trouble if my senior year was a party I probably didn't need to go to.
Well, you know, as teenagers do, they get into a little bit of trouble sometimes.
But no, I think Joel and I wanted the same things. We wanted to get married in the temple. We wanted a family.
And you remember talking about this when you're 16 and 17 years old? And you wanted to have a family. Well, and what else?
You know what? And then Grandpa was retiring. He retired from the city. And although, in this generation, it seems like getting married at 17 is just crazy, right? But for them, it wasn't. It was a different generation.
Totally.
And Mom had her own story. She had met Warren Knudsen in Blue Water, New Mexico. Her parents announced that they were going to be moving to Mesa, and she didn't want to leave. She wanted to get married to Warren, but they said no. And so she jumped out the window and married that Warren Knudsen.
I know. Such a scandal.
And so, but this was a good girl. This was a good girl. It wasn't like she was a bad girl. But she's embarrassed about that. So I just told you, keep the secret, okay?
Well, the secret's out. I own it. It's okay. I'm sure she's up there laughing hysterically because there's no reason to be embarrassed about it.
Right. But because of that experience she had, she didn't, when people wanted to be together, she was a romantic, let them be together.
100%.
And Grandpa had retired.
Okay.
But I remember asking Warren, my dad, I said, should Joel go on a mission before we get married? And he's a practical man. He said, they can't all go. They'd have too many.
They can't all go. They would have too many.
Yeah.
Did you know he said that? That's hysterical.
So
he was like, get married. That's basically what he was saying. You should just get married, right?
Yeah.
Wow. But did he ask you? Did he ask Grandpa first? Did Joel actually officially come in and ask? Did you know when he was doing that? So you knew this.
And they were okay with this.
Of course. But I was just wondering if he did he came over and he asked for your hand.
Yes, he did talk to my dad.
Were you there or he did it without you?
No, I don't think I was there.
Yeah. It's so sweet. And at this time you were 17.
I was 17 and Joel had just graduated from high school. So we were young.
He was 18. You hadn't graduated yet? Or
no,
you had? Okay.
No, I hadn't. I went ahead and finished my senior year after I got married. And I graduated with honors, the gold rope, with a gold rope.
Kirtland High School.
And but
where did you live your senior year? Where did you and Joel live?
We had a little trailer that Dad had helped me fix up, and we lived at the feedlot on the farm.
No way.
We did.
Oh, yeah. I love that. On Joel's family's farm. Oh, they had a little
on the
trailer.
feedlot. So
that's so sweet.
Yep, it was good. For some, getting married at 17 may not be the answer, but for me, it's not like I made this decision or I had to get married or anything. I prayed about it. I just got that confirmation. And things are different then too. Like girls go to college. We never talked about me going to college or, he always said, I've raised 3 good daughters. We're going to raise 1 more. And my patriarchal blessing had said my main purpose in coming to earth was to be a mother. And I was like, but I thought I was going to be a singer, but oh, well, I'll be a mother. No.
You can do both.
Oh, right. Okay. And so it just was what I wanted. I never wanted to be away from him. He healed so many of my insecurities, my deficiencies, his love is the strongest force in my life. I never have to worry that Joel Foutz won't love me or won't be there for me. I needed that strong person that I could always depend on, and he is it.
He is it.
He would.
He's always been it.
I never have to worry. Yes, he's always been it.
Always been it. Wow.
So
that's beautiful on so many levels. And he's such a wonderful person. And so after high school, soon after that did you have your first baby?
We had Jared within a year. Yeah.
So you were 18.
Wow. And I loved being a mom. I love my babies.
I know you do. I know you do so much.
And my grandbabies. And, every time one of my children would turn 6, I would think, how could a mom give away her 6-year-old, And my sister was 7. How does a mom give away her little daughter? And because I have a mother heart, and now I do, even with my grandchildren, every time I'm like, how would you give away a 6-year-old? And it makes me have deep compassion that my birth mother had to have those circumstances.
It was forced on her.
Had they had what I was given as far as, religion, understanding, the plan that Heavenly Father has for his children,
faith,
she wouldn't have suffered like that.
Yeah.
But I have been able to do her work so that she can have those things. She was baptized, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In her later years, she lived in an apartment building where there were 2 sister missionaries, and she clung to those sisters. They taught her, and then they baptized her. And then we seemed to have a lot more to talk about after that.
Oh
So,
my gosh,
yeah,
that's
she
beautiful.
was baptized.
How soon after you got married and when you had your child, when did you reconnect with her the first time?
She did send me some letters.
Oh.
I have a letter right after I got married, and we just communicated with letters.
And did your mom, was Niona updating her? Like, how did she get the news about you? You don't, do you have any idea?
Because of Rita. Because Rita went back there.
Rita did. Okay, good.
My
so
mom,
Rita was there. Yep.
Yeah. Niona was very emotionally fragile about that.
Okay.
She always said I was going to go back to the Indians.
She was so afraid that you would go back.
I don't think she
understand
is now.
that.
I think she's okay now. And I think she's being nice to Virginia.
Oh, I'm sure they're best friends.
Where they are now.
Of course they are.
I think so.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all have our own insecurities. And I never knew that. I never realized that she would be worried that you would leave her.
Yeah.
And I guess that is what happened with her friend and with your sister.
Well, yeah.
That is what
after
happened.
what happened with Irene.
So she's, she must be terrified that you will do
Rita,
the same.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay, so she would write you letters.
She would write me letters
your wedding.
And send me presents. I talked to her on the phone, but it wasn't a real close connection. It was never real close to her. I could have been, maybe should have been, but
no, there's no could have, should have.
but
There's no rule book for. There's no guidebook for this.
Okay, but I have felt her presence, and I'm, like I said, I was never mad at her. And then as I got older, and like we talked about how terrible to have to be in a circumstance where you had to give away your child, be it a newborn, be it at any age. A mother's love is the strongest love next to that of Christ himself. And
now, how old were you when she was baptized?
Oh,
was it later?
Yes, it was. See, I probably had, after we went out there when I was pregnant with Jay. So I would have to look that up. It's in my journal.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's the trip where you went out there. She had just been baptized?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was probably 10 years later.
10 years. Okay. Okay. Wow. And was she a young mother too? How old was she?
19, I think, when the twins were born, and more like 20.
Totally.
When I was born.
Normal back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, wow. And I just love hearing stories about my grandma and my grandpa. And is there anything else any other memories, like fond memories, any other stories about Iona, or going to church, or learning the new traditions, or Any other family gatherings? What are the rest of the trips that you remember? You went to go see Carolyn.
Oh, right. The Knutsons had reunions, and Benny had carried those on too. And that's a good time to get everybody together, reconnect, and remember who we came from, who taught us, and who we are. But
we had to have matching colored shirts for each family
yes.
that you made. Of course, I didn't know that when I was a kid. You made all the shirts. And every family, every descendant had a different color. No, we were blue one year. And so I don't know what color you were.
The reason we had all of those shirts is, okay, we had bought advertising ideas in March. Well, in October, it burned. And so
craziest
I was
story.
starting over again. So there was enough insurance to pay off the bank note. But so I had all of these t-shirts, but we also had a laundry. So we washed them and we sold them really cheap. And Grandpa decided in his way to help us in our dilemma, he bought t-shirts for everybody. So I think they were $2 a piece. You know, it wasn't like,
I didn't know that.
Yes, he did that for us. So
Before one of the reunions, this is
that
that's what we
reunion
wrote.
in Mesa where we had the t-shirts
Where we wore
with
the
the coat
shirts.
of arms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Grandpa bought those.
Yeah.
Your fire.
My fire
A literal fire sale.
Yes. No.
That's awesome.
And you know what? Mom always liked to make $1 out of 15 cents. Have you ever heard that one?
Mm-mm.
Okay. She always liked to make $1 out of 15 cents or make something out of scraps. And so I feel like I am probably the best example of her. She took scraps and she made it into somebody that learned and loved. I've had
You
a good
were
life.
most definitely not scraps. Just a beautiful, sweet child.
Made of scraps.
Well, we all are.
We can make beautiful things.
Wow. And so after a while, they moved from Farmington to Mesa. So how old were you when they did that? I don't know what year that was.
Well, it was in the see, I had my last child, AJ, in 89, and they were there for all of the others, but for him, so it was in the about 85, maybe they left. And we were sad when they left, but understanding that trip was getting too much to make all the time, to have 2 pieces of property to take care of.
Yep.
And Mesa had a temple. Dad wanted to spend time in the temple.
Yeah.
And so
Farmington
it just
didn't.
made more sense.
And how involved was Grandma when you had children? How involved was she with your children?
Oh, my goodness. My kids loved her. I know she probably moved to get away from them because they were, Crystal and Kara would ride their bikes over to her house because it's Kirtland, you know, like it's safe.
Yeah.
But they would always want to ride their bikes over to her house. And
It wasn't very far.
No, it wasn't. And they would pick vegetables in her garden. They'd play dress ups. They would build a little fire out in the shed. They had so many good memories of her. They loved her. And in fact, it's when Crystal was on her deathbed, you know, it was Grandma Knutson that she would ask to come get her, you know. And there's a couple of times she told her, Grandma Knutson told her, no, you're going to have to wait a while. But then I know finally she said, yes, come with me. And
She told you that?
Crystal. Well, the last surgery Crystal had, she'd had her stomach removed, then she had her colon removed. This was Crohn's disease. And she died of an infection like a week after the surgery. But when she came out of surgery, she said, Mom, after they got her off the respirator and she said, Mom, what color was Grandma's hair? I'm like, it was brown. She said, Mom, I saw her. She said, her hair was short and she didn't have buck teeth anymore. And she was beautiful, Mom. And I asked her if I could go with her, but she said, not now. And it was like, she was so anxious to tell me that when she got out of the surgery. So I know that Niona is well. That
She has.
Well, yes, in her younger days, when my kids knew her, she had false teeth, but in her younger days that she had buck
Yeah.
teeth, but
Yeah, I never knew her. I only saw pictures of her, but she had the false teeth,
Yeah.
my whole life. Wow. And so they would just go over to grandma's all the time.
yeah.
I feel like they are so blessed for that because
Yes.
I only got to see grandma every 2 years, maybe.
Oh.
And so they were so lucky to have
And so
grandma down the
when
street.
Grandma Knudsen died,
Yeah.
then they latched onto Wanda because Wanda reminded them so much of Grandma.
So much of grandma.
Yes. And so when we had a reunion in St. George, they were first to push the wheelchair. They were like, they saw Nyona
much alike.
in Wanda.
Well, they looked so much alike too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the cousin I'm closest with is Wanda's granddaughter. It's Erica.
Okay.
So Glen Hill, so she's
All right.
so that's Anne's daughter is my
Okay.
age, even though we're the different generations. That we're the same
right.
age, so we're really
Okay.
close. And she lives close to Santan Valley. She lives in Queen Creek, right?
They
Like Joel's
are
sister.
wonderful people. I have no doubt that they're happy where they are, that
Yeah.
they're together. That
Dancing around,
right. And then you had Carolyn in that brew. Yeah.
the real dancer.
Yeah, she's
Was she always dancing for you? I forgot. It's not tap dancing. It's called clogging.
yeah.
Was she always clogging?
She did that in Clawson. But Mom and Dad were very close to Carolyn, and they tried to help her. She had how many children?
10.
10? Okay, and Benny beat her. Right.
Benny beat her by
Okay.
1.
Okay.
Say that 10 times fast. Benny beat her by 1.
Right. But so we saw Carolyn a lot, and I loved.
Because she was
loved
always helping
Carolyn.
out with the babies.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. And then you would come visit us too. Do you remember that any other trips to come visit Benny's family, besides going to Japan?
I thought we mainly met at reunions.
Yeah, mainly in reunions. So that's really the only time you came to visit
After I got
we
married.
lived.
Yeah, after I got married.
Yeah.
Because then I had 7 kids, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And the age span of your children, how far apart?
Jared was 18 when AJ was born.
So you 18 years
18
apart.
years.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have some
Having
wonderful
babies
kids.
for 20 years straight.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, from oldest to the youngest. They each have their gifts, their qualities. And I'm so fortunate that I was so close to Crystal. I talked to her every single day. But Kara, she stood up, and as the big sister in the family, she's done a lot that Crystal would want her to do as the big sister. And so I have Kara and Jonelle. Jonelle I see every day because we work together in the business. Jonelle started going to work with me when she was 6 weeks old. Now she's 41 and she still goes to work with me every day. So
Every day.
it's great. I couldn't have done
beautiful.
it without her. I couldn't.
Wow. Yeah, and you have all kinds of businesses. You have so much going on at all times.
Grandpa had a word for that about being possessed with your possessions. So maybe we need to get rid of a few businesses. Yeah, because there's other things I'd like to do besides work.
Yeah? Like what?
I just have more vacations with my grandkids. Do fun things.
Yeah.
I need to have another reunion.
I missed the last one and I regret it deeply. I would love to go.
We'll get it again.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss
We
Crystal.
lost Uncle Ronnie, but
Yeah.
so
It's beautiful.
right.
Is there anything else that you remember you want to make sure that any stories that you want to tell us before we wrap up? Anything else you
I don't
remember
know.
about
Does Benny have
Grandma?
anything we
Do you
haven't
have
covered?
Any questions for us, Dad, that we wanted us to cover?
Your trip back to Mishimoka with your cousin. Susan.
Uncle Ronnie's daughter?
Oh, okay.
Oh, Marvin's Susan. Oh,
Oh, yes.
Trip back east.
Oh, yes. We took lots of trips because of Benny. Because he would go far away places. We got to tag and go to far away places.
that's amazing.
Yes. And okay, so Grandpa and Grandma, we always added one of the nieces or like Darla
Oh,
or
okay.
Susan, Leanne, and there's another one that one of them would come with us.
Oh, fun.
Susan. And so we usually, when we went on trips, we took one of the granddaughters. And this one time we went to, you'll have to say the name of that. Okay. Was that the cabin in the mountains? And there was a lake.
Oh, in New Hampshire.
Yes, there was a lake that Susan and I would get up every morning and go out and row the boat. And it was just beautiful. At night, we'd go back and play rook. And Willow would make cupcakes and we'd have hot chocolate. And it was just the funnest time.
And which ones of my siblings were around? Just Mike and Bruce?
Yeah, they were just
Sally wasn't born.
Sally wasn't born yet. So
now, when we went to Japan, Mike and Bruce and Sally and Julie were born. And Benny and Willow lived in a Air Force housing, and she would run up those stairs and down those stairs. That's how she stays so skinny. She was always on the run, taking care of
Always
everything.
running, moving.
Taking care of everything.
Yeah.
But Japan was a good trip too, with Mom and Dad.
that's so
And
fun.
Benny.
Stopped in Hawaii on the way back.
Yes, on the way back.
Got lost.
We stopped. They thought I was lost. I was just down at the swimming pool. But what's a 16-year-old going to do?
That's so
Sit in her
fun.
room?
It was at the hotel. There was a swimming pool.
Yeah.
They thought you were gone.
I guess. I don't know. They thought I was gone. Okay. I was just down at the swimming pool.
Funny. Do you remember them coming to find you?
Yes, everybody looked so panicked. I'm like, oh, okay. Am I not supposed to be at the swimming pool?
You there by yourself?
So,
It's so fun.
I know I didn't. I've never sensed danger, never been afraid. Yeah. Buy a business, buy a tractor. Yeah, just take the dive, right?
Right.
So
Well, that's
have
amazing.
7 kids. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
It's incredible.
But Willa, she's amazing.
She had you beat
You're
by a
with it.
couple, but 7. That's a lot.
She did great.
That's a lot.
I couldn't
But like
live
you
without
said-
either of them, any of them.
No, you couldn't.
No.
It's only going to be a little while without Crystal. We'll
Right.
see her again soon.
Yes.
Yeah. Does Niona ever come visit you, or do you ever see her, or like in dreams or anything? Like she came to visit Crystal?
Oh,
You ever feel like she's there with you?
you know what? I need to somehow get past this, but I always worry that she's disappointed with me, or that I haven't done everything she wanted me to do. So
No.
I know I need to work on that. I bought me a little plaque that I put on my makeup mirror, right where I put my makeup on, and said, I am enough. So I'm trying to hope that I'm enough, that I've done,
Of course you are.
that I have not disappointed her. She had real high expectations.
What do you think? What could you possibly think that she would have wanted you to do?
She had this amazing patriarchal blessing that none of her children would go astray, you know. And my children are good kids. They are, but not all of them are passionate about some of the things that I believe.
Yeah.
That things that were so clear to me, but they don't see that yet. And I think that will take some time. And I don't know if she thinks I wasn't a good enough mom, or could have done better. But
Heavens, no.
I have to work on that.
Don't you think that she is?
I hope she's not mad at me.
I think she loves people unconditionally, truly, as she has demonstrated
Yes,
over
and she's really
over.
good with the wayward. You know, she would be compassionate. She had brothers that didn't have strong beliefs, and some did and some didn't, and she loved them anyway. So,
Oh, of course.
yeah.
Oh, they were drinking and smoking. She had brothers that were drinking and smoking her whole life.
So
She didn't care. She loved them. When you say she was very compassionate with the wayward, what do you mean?
that she believed in them and gave them hope that they could change, that they could be, because she knew that because of the atonement, you know, we can come from here to there.
Yeah.
And it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So she taught me that. And that's I try to be like her. I'm far from it, but I'm working on it.
It's beautiful. Anything else you want us to ask before we wrap up, Dad?
I do have a comment. She couldn't possibly have wanted any more from you, Sherry, or anybody else.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
agree with that wholeheartedly.
Mm.
You are so compassionate and such a beautiful person, and you've raised a incredible family. You have 28 grandkids.
Yes. And then the grandkids are having babies, getting married and having babies. So we have like 17 greats.
17
Yes, it's
greats
good.
already.
It's
You have more great grandchildren than my mom. We're only on number 10.
all right. Oh, yeah.
My kids haven't gotten started yet, so
You'll be a
we
great.
might beat you. We might beat you eventually, but right now you're ahead.
It's good.
You're way ahead with your
Yeah.
great grandchildren.
They are our life.
It's not a competition.
And
they
we're
are
blessed
life.
to have all of ours close.
Yeah.
And so when they come home for Christmas, it's a house full.
I bet.
It's a house full.
Everyone stays with you. Everyone stays in the house with you when they come home.
Well, they don't. They live close.
Everyone lives
They
close
just
to your
come
house.
to the house for the.
Yeah.
this
Okay. It's only
meals
some of
and
the
celebration.
grandchildren that don't
Right.
live there.
Oh,
That's right.
That's true.
That's right. I was thinking they're coming home, but it's only the grandchildren. Some of them, only a
Right.
couple.
Right.
That's beautiful. Well, it's a beautiful story, and thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for asking me.
Thanks for coming out and
Being a
sharing
lovely
your
daughter.
experience, because it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And there's so many things about my grandparents that I just don't know. And I love hearing stories about her. I love hearing stories about Warren. You have a completely unique experience because you had them when they were older.
That's true. I will have to tell you real quickly. I know that when Carolyn was growing up, Grandpa tried to intercede and be a disciplinarian. And Naona told him, okay, she had a way of setting people straight. She told him that that was her job and to back off. And that's why he never disciplined me, because that wasn't his job. That was hers. She could do it.
That's so
Isn't that funny?
hilarious.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Oh.
And so,
Well, she didn't like the way he did it. Right.
Okay, you're doing it wrong. I'm going to do it.
Right. Let me take care of it. And she did a good job.
Back off.
Yeah.
Warren.
So I didn't have the dad that Verna and Wanda.
No, you didn't.
And I had this mellow, a grandfather.
Yeah, he was older and he was calmer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And knew that things take their course. Things work out.
They didn't worry about it too much. They didn't worry about too much. Did they seem to worry?
No.
It didn't seem like it. It didn't seem like they worried. They just took care of people. and-
How would I know?
Yeah, they didn't share it
My
with
kids
you.
don't know how I worry,
Yes, they do.
But,
I think they do. I think our kids are a lot smarter and a lot more in tune with us than we think they are. We try to hide it when we're upset or worried, but they know. Yeah. Well, it's beautiful.
All right.
I'm so
Well,
happy
thank
that
you.
you're in our family,
Yes.
and we have this miracle that we're so blessed that we got to have Aunt Sherry in our lives, and you got to be within our family.
You're stuck with me.
You're
Okay.
stuck
I'm
with
here
us,
to stay.
and we are so lucky. And I love you so much.
Okay. Love you too. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and listening to my show. If you got any value at all, it would mean the world if you shared it and left a review. Remember, the only way to create the life you love is to take it one day at a time. Create today. God bless you.